Today I'm going to show you how in Photopea how to create a digital collage. This is different than creating two images that are transparencies or multiple exposures over itself. To start off, when you do a collage, you want to actually create a new blank document. I'm going to use the print options here and choose a size that I like, 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to switch it so the width is longer than the height. That's just because of the composition I want to create. If you want a vertical composition, you'll have the width at 8.5, the height at 11, or vice versa. Make sure that the DPI is 300 and the background is white. I'm going to hit create. Then I'm going to go get my images. Again, it's slightly different than opening images and adding them, or later adding them on top. Instead of file open, I'm going to choose an option called open and place, which then will take my image and place it directly on the canvas that I have. Now, this is really big, so I need to shrink it. So up here, you see on the options bar width and height. So I need to set this to a number and make sure both the width and the height are that same number. I'm going to click OK. I'll use the move tool and I'll move this into where I think it needs to go. Then I'll go to File, Open and Place again, and I'll go find a different image and open that, and I'll resize this one the same. So I remembered that I used about a 30% height and width. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to drag this into place. Now, I noticed instantly that the height and width don't really match up. This image here is slightly smaller than the other one, probably because I moved back or forth with my camera. So I will hit the transform controls, hold shift while dragging this picture bigger to make it kind of line up to where I want it to be. Now I'm going to grab a third picture and do the same thing, open in place. I'll grab a different perspective on the same scene and do this again. You can keep repeating this process with all of the photos that you want to add. If you need to adjust, again, holding shift and making them bigger will work. One of the problems that you'll see by just adding your pictures here, though, is that one of them overlaps the other, and we lose a lot of the interesting interactions that are happening. So that's where a tool called the polygon lasso tool comes into play. By default, this is going to show you the rectangle tool, but instead I'm going to click and hold and go to the polygon lasso, which lets me select an area that's different than a rectangle. So if I select this by clicking and holding little points all around here, it's going to create a selection that then I can choose this add mask tool on my layers palette, and I can add a mask. Essentially what it did was it got rid of all the excess information in that layer. And then interesting things start happening when you have these images coming together in this way. If I wanted to do that differently, I'm going to undo a couple times until I get back. So I'm sorry, I have to hit step backward here. I'm going to deselect and try this slightly differently. Instead of cutting around that, I'm going to try to cut through it just to kind of create a more interesting picture here. Hit the mask. This I like better. And then when this starts lining up, you start seeing some really interesting things happen, how all of these line up together. When you save your documents, make sure that you're saving as a Photoshop file so you can go back and you can edit these. I'll just call it computer 3. this is the basics. You can keep adding images. You can keep cutting them out. You can add different, again, you can take images and you can add them together in different ways. I actually think that this one would be interesting on top. So I'm going to move the layer and I'm going to go ahead and crop out this one too in an interesting way. This looks really cool. How these all start to fit together in an interesting kind of puzzle. So that's it.